All right, family. Black Power. Black Power is the truth hour with General Sarasu said he kick back, get your mind ready for some information that's guaranteed to be happy. We got a powerful one today. We're going to be talking about Maihepra, the Nubian noble whose tomb was found intact. A lot of people think about TUTANKHAMEN and they found his tomb intact. But there were more, it was other pharaohs, other noble people where they found the complete tomb intact. Maihepra is one of those. We're going to reveal some amazing things that came out of this tomb. Before we get started, I want you to get on over there to my Patreon. That's right. We got some fire jumping off over there today. Did the Egyptians travel to inner earth? We're talking about Agartha, in the Egyptians' spirituality. Heaven was under the ground. One of the versions, it was under the ground. So we got to tap into that. What was up under there? We need to get into that information. There's over 500 exclusive live streams on my Patreon. Check it out, family. Also, KingSeti.com online marketplace, official General Seti products, DVDs, T-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry. You can become a member right here, General Seti, Sarasu and Seti's YouTube page. Go to my home page, click the membership, check out the fire on there, and please give this video a thumbs up, like it because you love it. Share it with your family and friends, comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because you will get banned. So now we're going to tap into Maihepra. I remember Dr. Ben talking about Maihepra, and he said, he was of the royal bloodline. They try to say that he was just a noble, but Dr. Ben said that he was of the royal bloodline, that, one of the, whether he was Tutmosis or one of them was his uncle, but he was of the royal bloodline. But anyway, I was, trying to tap in to see, different tombs that were intact when they found a tomb. And I remember Tutankhamen, they came out of his tomb with over 5,000 pieces. I don't believe Maihepra, he didn't have that kind of tomb, but he had a noble tomb. Okay, so he in his Book of the Dead is one of the most complete, most elaborate books of the dead that has ever been found. You see, and that's very important that we know that. Now, Maihepra was from the 18th dynasty. Okay, he was buried in the Valley of the Kings. You see, and so they say Maihepra often rendered in ancient Egyptian inscriptions as a noble and warrior whose name is usually translated as lion of the battlefield. So obviously he was not only a noble, but he must have been a general, or a general or one of their great warriors, because they called him lion of the battlefield. And the only way you're going to get a title like that, you got to be busting some heads. You got to be cracking some heads out there. And so he is known from his tomb KV36. Now, if you want to, check it out, all you had to do is, Google it, KV36 in the Valley of the Kings. That is at Luxor, and honor normally reserved for royalty and high officials, suggesting he was highly esteemed by the Pharaoh. You see, and so this is critical because they didn't find more than Maihepra up there. They didn't find more than Maihepra. Maihepra was just one of many, quote unquote. And every time they see, but he was an Egyptian. You see, he was an Egyptian. It's quick to always say Nubian. No, he was an Egyptian. He was in the court, the royal court, and I believe we're gonna get down. I believe they saying he was Tutmosis. I believe they was trying to say it was Tutmosis the fourth, I believe, or the third. We'll get down to what Pharaoh they say. Now, titles and roles. Now, Maihepra, let me throw Get Maihepra up in there. I'm behind Maihepra. Let me get it. Let me get old Maihepra in there. Give him some. Let me get him some airplay up here. You feel what I'm saying? This Maihepra, and you can see, you know, he got his linen on, and he was a brother. You see, you can see him right there. He got his apron on. He was a brother of the craft. So he wasn't just anybody. He was initiated into the priesthood. You can see that, you know. So just, you know, that's to be taken note, you know. And I could put this was his tomb, and we'll get off into that. You know, we'll get off into that. We just I'll stay with the visual of Maihepra right now, so we can, you know, ponder on this Egyptian, this black Egyptian. You see, which all of them was black. Okay, now it's saying his title. Now they saying Maihepra held several notable titles that reflect his position at court. Now, one is child of the nursery, likely meaning he was raised within the royal household or closely connected to the royal family early in life. Now that's very serious, because in order for Maihepra to be raised in the royal household, you know, his mom and daddy had to have some rank. You know, his mom and daddy had to have some rank in order for him to be raised. And he was raised with the pharaoh, the prince, and, you know, and all the royal family. Okay, it says fan bearer on the right side of the king. And so an elite title indicating he was a trusted companion and attendant of the pharaoh. Okay, so he probably, you know, he probably was you know, one of his security guards or something, potentially involved in military campaigns, ceremonies, or close advisory roles. This title was later used for powerful officials like the viceroys of Kush. Yeah, you see, they always want to, you know, and they like doing that, you know, just to say, you know, he's an Egyptian. You know, that's exactly what he is. And it was many Egyptians. And I'm not saying that, you know, you're talking about two different states, just like you got the United States. You know, you got many states within the union. So you had a union of Nile Valley states. And it don't make no difference which one you was in. You see, they look almost the same. And if you go up south, of course, you're going to get a little darker. But for the most part, phenotypically, they were all of the same stock. Even when you look at the Puntites on the walls of Hatshepsut, they didn't look too much different than the Egyptians. So that's way down south. That's how they depicted them. They didn't depict them, you know, to be weird looking or any. They look just like the Egyptians. Wore the same clothes. They wore the same clothes. And so it says origin, appearance, artistic depictions, and his Book of the Dead suggests he was of Nubian descent. Wow, did it take a PhD to figure that out? Of course. You know, from the region south of Egypt. This is supported by how he was shown and by his mummy, which indicated dark complexion. Okay, well, Tutankhamen had a dark complexion. His mummy was black. And people have compared King Tut's skull to Maihepra's skull, and it didn't look too much difference. So if that's the case, of indicating, you know, and how his mummy indicated he had dark complexion, well, so did Tutankhamen. He was dark black. Okay, so burial and legacy. Maihepra was buried with rich funerary equipment in the Valley of the Kings, a rare honor for someone who was not a pharaoh. You see, so you buried in the Valley of the King, but you're not a king. which means you highly favored. He was highly favored to get that type of to get that type of a position to be buried in the Valley of the Kings. That's, you talking about the richest cemetery you probably in the world ever. When you think about all that was put down, you had, I believe it was something like 76 tombs in the Valley of the Kings. I was able to go down. Well, I think I went down in maybe 4, 5 of them. I went down in 4, 5 of them. I know we got into Amenhotep the third. It was so many people trying to go in Ramesses' tomb that I opted not to go in that one. But we was able to go into a few. Where it wasn't so many people, but it was Tutankhamen, King Tut tomb. Everybody and their mama was trying to get in that one. So it was a line all the way around the Valley of the Kings trying to get in that one. So I opted out. But man, when you think about what was put in them tombs, all the gold, all the, you know what I'm saying, it's just unbelievable. So his tomb and mummy were discovered in the late 19th century, and his burial goods, including his version of the Book of the Dead, are among the most famous non-royal burials from that necropolis. I'm going to have to get off into his Book of the Dead. I'm going to see if I can break it down and get off into it and see, is there any major differences? So Maihepra was a prominent and trusted noble warrior of ancient Egypt, likely serving close to the king and honored with a burial among Egypt's elite in the Valley of the Kings. But what king was it? Let me see. They dancing around that. They dancing around that. Okay, they saying it was most likely Tutmosis the fourth. They saying it was most likely Tutmosis the fourth. And so that was 1401 to 1391 BCE. So they say that's the scholarly consensus. And they say why Tutmosis the fourth tomb style and dating, Maihepra's tomb, KV 36, and burial equipment fit early mid 18th dynasty craftsmanship, lining up neatly with Tutmosis the fourth. Okay. So you say his titles, fan bearer on the right side of the king, child of the nursery. These titles are especially common among intimate court companions during Tutmosis the fourth's reign. Maihepra was a part of their family. They trying to walk down the fact that he was blood to that pharaoh, and so that's why they not saying this. He was blood, and that's what Dr. Ben said. I remember it closely where he said that one of those pharaohs was his uncle. So Maihepra was more than just some fan bearer, and I understand that on the right side of the king. But even when you dealing with the fact it said the right side, that means that's your right hand man. You feel what I'm saying? Military and Nubian context, Tutmosis the fourth ruled shortly after major Nubian and Levantine campaigns. Maihepra's status and depiction strongly fit a palace-raised elite warrior from this moment. Possibly, but less certain, Amenhotep the second. So some people say it could be Amenhotep the second, but most people going with Tutmosis the fourth. Okay, going with Tutmosis the fourth. Now, this was his canoptic This was it, and his sarcophagus too was black. So he, he had some, I don't know if that's wood. It probably is some wood, but his sarcophagus matched his canoptic jars, and they put his organs in those canoptic jars. I believe the liver, I don't believe the heart might have been in there. I believe the heart, and it's a few more organs that went in there, but that's what the canoptic jars were for. And so this right here is his sarcophagus. Now, this is a trip because you look at that and people are gonna say, well, that don't look Nubian. That don't look Nubian. But it's clear that Maihepra is a Nubian. Okay, it's so you when you see this, you can't say, oh, that because he's a Nubian. You see, which really a black Egypt. His nationality was an Egyptian. You see, that's just what it is. He was an Egyptian. He served in the Egyptian military. He was buried in Egypt. He was an Egyptian. Okay, now this right here was his tomb. Let me take the comments out. Let me take the comments out. So you look up there, you can see where his sarcophagus was. No, I don't think they left the heart in. I think they took the heart out. I thought they put like they put a Kepra, you know what I'm saying? I think they put a Kepra in place of the heart. That's my understanding. You might be right, Ray. You might be right, Ray. I don't, I had to brush up. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. I can ask. I can quickly ask. You might be right. Yeah, they did. You're right. They left it in there. You're right. You hit it on the head, Ray. You hit it on the head. Yep, they left it in there. But let me see what went into the canoptic jars. The intestines, the lungs. I can't see that down there. It looked like the liver. The intestines, the lungs, the liver. I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines. Lungs, liver, and intestines. That's what they took out. Lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines. Yeah. So, but this is his tomb right here. And I would like to see, I had to get a visual of everything that they took out. But he had a nice tomb, for real. They said it was elegant. He had an elegant tomb, and so I just got to get inside and see what they would allow us to see. Oh, he's 18th dynasty. Yeah, Maihepra is 18th dynasty. Tutmos is the fourth. That's right around 1400 BC. Right around 1400 BC. So y'all can look that up. But I'm gonna touch back on Maihepra, and we're gonna touch on his Book of the Dead. We're gonna touch on his Book of the Dead and see if there was something, elaborate about that, more so than others, because his is one of the most well preserved book of the Dead that they found yet. And to see and it's crazy, and people don't, and this is one of the oldest spiritual books on the planet with a black man on it. They could be. They could be. Or they just wasn't, they just what a lot of time things were used over and over, and sometimes they didn't call them to, if you wasn't TUTANKHAMEN, you wasn't gonna get yours called to, that specification. You know what I'm saying? So they might have had some generic coffins and things of that nature. I don't think, even if I don't even think they could duplicate the fake one, because even if they duplicate it, why would they leave the black man face? They know, and so a lot of times it was a generic move. The sarcophagus might not even been meant for him, and they just used it, they just used it. And a lot of times that happened. They reuse things. A lot of time they take statues and carve the previous pharaoh name out of it, and then carve their name in place of it. Appreciate y'all, man. Yeah. Appreciate y'all being here. We just getting started today, man. We're going to keep it moving because we got a nice lineup. Yeah, they'll call right and call your name right on out of there and put their name in it. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, family, I'll see y'all in a minute. Arm yourself with knowledge. Get over there. We got that fire tonight. We're going to be going into the underworld. We're going to be talking about, did the Egyptians travel to inner earth? Most of us, if you did any studies, know that, part of heaven was in the underworld. You see, it was in the underworld, under the earth. We want to talk about how the Egyptians conceived that, So is Agartha, is it real? We're going to find out tonight. See you in a minute, family. Arm yourself with knowledge. Bang on that wicked beast daily. Liberation through African education and confrontation. Boom. Black power.